second plenary after the inauguration of the 10th House of Representatives. The Green House started by considering motions critical to national development. Philip Agbese from Benue State says the way Nigerian youths leave the country in droves has become worrisome. He wants the House to take a decision on it by urging the federal government to promptly look into the issue.
I rise to move the motion for a need to declare emigration of young Nigerians abroad, also known as JAKPA syndrome. JAKPA is a Yoruba word for people who are running away from the country.
Just introduce the subject matter so that we can get a secondary.
Need to declare emigration of young Nigerians abroad, aka JAPA syndrome, a national emergency.
But the motion did not scale through, as some of his colleagues have different opinions. Some lawmakers argue that the word JAPA is not appropriate to be used to describe the situation, while some others say the motion is not necessary, as every Nigerian has the right to go in search of a better life if the country cannot offer them one.
The word JAPA is Iboni. It is not in the Advanced Learners Dictionary, neither is it in any word in Nigeria or any part of the world. And most importantly, this is what you consider a street language, Iboni. That is my prayer to this particular motion.
Most members feel that there is a constitutional obligation that gives citizens freedom of movement and association to pursue anything that will enhance their life. Apart from that, there's a provision under the directive principle of state policy that has to do with government protecting lives and properties and making life easy for citizens. If you have not put these things in place, you have not created employment, you have not created jobs, you have not secured lives and properties. You didn't even train them in school, you didn't pay their school fees. And then you now want to make a law or make a resolution that will try to focus on discouraging them not to travel abroad. The foundational reason for travel abroad is it not failure and inability of government?
Agbese, however, says he will re-present the motion to the House at a later date after conferring with some of his colleagues. He believes the issue is critical to addressing brain drain problems in the country.
I strongly believe that in the days ahead, Parliament will have to revisit. If we don't talk about it, one day we'll wake up, we'll discover that the best doctors are no longer in this country. We'll discover that the best nurses are no longer here. We'll discover that we no longer have people to build roads and bridges for us in this country. Because these are the very people that are leaving. Our IT experts are leaving. People who are very good in the banking sector are leaving. So there's something fundamentally wrong. And I believe that is what Parliament should be interested.
We have to find a way to address the government failure. Before we talk, how do you discourage a man who has not eaten his money from going abroad? How do you discourage a man who didn't go to school, who wants to find a way to survive from not going abroad? So if you want to tackle the issue of not going abroad, you have to address the root causes, which is hinged on failure of government to provide basic things of life for the citizen, from education, social security, to economic rights, and so on and so on. So the failure of government is the reason. So even if you move a motion 100 times today, you cannot stop a man that is hungry from jumping even into a ship to go to abroad.
The House is now adjourned plenary to the 4th of July to observe a 3-week break.
All right, joining us now to discuss this issue is the lawmaker that moved the motion in the Green Chambers, Philip Agbese, and a RISE analyst, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me start with you. Are you discouraged? I know we know the impact of the emigration of Nigerian youths. I mean, we're already feeling it in the construction industry or the building industry, whichever. Basic artisans are now brought in from Benin Republic and other West African countries because of the dearth of, middle-level skilled workers in Nigeria. Agbese?
Well, thank you for having me this evening to still discuss this issue. I'm not in any way discouraged because it is actually the right thing for us to do. Secondly, we're just barely a week in Parliament. We inaugurated on Tuesday. We had our first sitting on Wednesday and the second one on Thursday. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas has just been elected as the Speaker of the House. He has come with lots of promises for the House and the Nigerian people as the things that he intends to do as the Speaker of the 10th Assembly. I strongly believe that one of the things fundamentally wrong with Parliament as it is today is the fact that my colleagues didn't actually take time to study the letters of the motion before making their contribution. So I believe that a scholar like the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, as we move forward to conduct our legislative business, will avail colleagues, members of the National Assembly, the opportunity to be able to study their document 2-3 days before the motion is discussed on the floor of the House, because it's very difficult to expect a man who has not done his research or studying an issue to make very useful contribution. Having said that, I want to give it to all my colleagues, those who supported the motion and those against it, because I've just started.
There's a second opportunity.
Yeah,
I mean, according to the Speaker.
Yes, apart from the second opportunity is that we are just beginning to understand the real issue. My colleagues who contributed to the debate, one of my colleagues mentioned the issue of fundamental human rights. That motion, I'm a youth, a man of 36 years old. I studied in the UK. I lived in the UK for a period of 7 years. So I will not move a motion to stop Nigerians from leaving this country abroad. That motion is actually to address the basic necessities, the things why we have put a government in place.
Why they are leaving.
Yes, why we're also in Parliament.
I think Professor Abiodun Adeniyi can come in here now. Prof, I mean, the issues are germane. Is this something that, we're going to go with a fishing rod before we know why this emigration is really becoming higher? Look at both clients anyway. There is dearth of manpower in the UK, Europe, and let's just say the developed economy, and they are here in Nigeria.
Yeah, but from listening to what the Honorable said and the contributions of his colleagues on video there, it seems that the positions, the issues are becoming very clear. But we have to understand that migration is a natural thing, it's an evolutionary thing, from the time of the Babylonians, to the time of the Jews, to the time of the Greeks, to the times of the Germans in Argentina, the Chinese in Southeast Asia, the Pakistanis in Britain, the Congolese in Canada. And now we're having a situation which has continued over the years of Africans, Asians continuing to move to the West, which tells us that migration is often determined by the need for safety. Safety weaved around economic prosperity, economic stability, fulfillment. Man tends to move towards a place of safety. That's the hallmark. That's what defines migration. In our situation, our economy has been in tailspin. And we have been declining over the years, and the youth are finding it difficult to invest their hope, in the country. So they are externalizing their hope. So what we need to do is, in the circumstances, what I've heard some of the legislators alluded to, that we should grow our economy or find ways of mitigating the pains, the fears of youths or people who are probably JAKPAing. And the concept of JAKPAing really is also coming to stay as a way of describing emigration. Yes. Sometimes
as a linguistic word, even though for now in linguistics we say that because a word has not found its way into the English
it's wrong,
does not.
No, before now, in the first period of Buhari regime, it was called Andrew, if you remember very well.
Yeah.
And eventually it became travel. And people are determined to die trying.
Yes.
Rather than not trying at all.
But
which tells us that it's a deep-seated thing.
Yeah.
That people just equate traveling, they think it's synonymous with progress.
Yeah, but that's the problem here, which the United Nations Agency for Human Migration has raised. Yes, emigration is a worldwide phenomenon, but look at the African emigration pattern. Crossing the dangerous Sahara, then using rafts and rickety ships to from the Mediterranean. No, what I just want to say, with 1,000 deaths only in the first quarter of this year, shouldn't governments be worried about the style of immigration?
I agree with you that government is worried. It should be worried, and I also agreed with the call that it should be a state of emergency. But it's not something we can legislate against, because the urge to migrate is a deep-seated one, almost doctrinal, almost synonymous with a kind of ideological belief. That's why you see people are even ready to die, like I said earlier. But you also have to understand that, economic reason is the principal driving force. And that's why you see the bulk of those migrating
around the world are moving from Asia, African countries to West, the most prosperous part of the world. How many Canadians, how many British citizens, how many native British citizens, how many Americans naturally have you seen moving to other parts of the world? If they move, they're moving as expatriates, they're moving as consultants, they're moving to go and do business, but not necessarily for economic fulfillment or because they cannot realize their hope in their own area of domiciliation, as the case could be.
Yeah. Okay, let me come to you, Agbese. Is it a case of hopelessness and helplessness for the Nigerian youth?
Yes. Since the inception of the Buhari administration in 2015,
the Buhari administration is gone.
Yes, it's gone. But you see, the damages inflicted on the Nigerian masses, particularly the youth, will take a very long time to live. I recall that President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu even alluded to this when he said that during the electionary campaign, that when he comes aboard as the president of the country, he will address those factors that led to people running away in droves from this country to help them return back to the country. And in his own word, I beg to quote him, he said, JAKPA. That's those who ran away. The motion is not in any way a way of using parliament to stop people from moving. Movement is very good. I schooled abroad. I went abroad because I was allowed to exercise my fundamental human right to move. But one of the underlying factors that enabled me to move, why I had to leave the country, was the poor educational system. Within the period of 8 years that Buhari was in power, ASU went on strike for a period of 6 years. That means people were only able to school for a period of 2 years. The other statistics, the exchange rate, the hopelessness on the side of the youth, the unemployment rate, and all of that. So the bill is, the motion is actually targeted at addressing, some of these factors, not only on the part of the youth. Many aged persons have also left the country as a result of insecurity. Thank God President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is beginning to address the issue of security in the country. So we want these things addressed. I give you a perfect example. Our doctors and nurses are leaving this country because there are no jobs for them. Where there are hospitals, no one is willing to pay. And where they are willing to pay, the pay is not enough. So for instance, if we put in place like a social security measure for doctors, nurses, and these professionals, to say, for instance, doctors in the country, just like the student loan that was passed by President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to say that doctors in this country will be entitled to 1 million naira per annum for their house rent. It therefore means that government has been able to solve one issue. Doctors will no longer be in a hurry to leave the country. So we must address these issues. And the issues boil down to insecurity, unemployment rate, the economic situation, poor health condition across our hospitals, and even the fact that today, when people graduate from school, after NYC, you are faced with that hopelessness and helplessness that there's nothing to do.
Okay, let's sorry.
Not to add, Tete.
Very quickly.
Yes, quickly to add. The greatest worry is even the population of those who are disenchanted with the current situation of the country. Those who have not been able to move, they have no hope, they have no interest in the country, and these are the people who turn out to form things like NSAS. So if we don't do something about the population that has not left the country, tomorrow the country will rise up in flames.
Okay, we just hope that that doesn't really happen. It's not all of those who emigrate that really succeed there, because some of them are going with unwanted skills and what have you. Prof, I'm looking at you as a professor in a tertiary institution. Is there a disconnect in our educational system that is not equipping the Nigerian youth adequately? Where are the technical colleges? That's what some people would want to say. Why are the polytechnics now moving towards theoretical submissions as done in the universities?
Christian, there are so many reasons that actually lead to migration. Sometimes it's not because you cannot necessarily get what you want outside and inside, so that's why you have to think you want to go outside. Sometimes it could be as a result of adventure. Sometimes it could also be because you want to spice up your knowledge. You want to gain from a new environment. Because of course cultures, understanding, learnings can be variegated based on systems and societies. So you may just think that you want to increase your knowledge base by learning what is in place in some other sections of the world. So I'm not going to say that, I won't agree that our educational system is in any way inferior. By all means, do not forget that we were colonized by the British, and of course, our educational system, even our speaking pattern, the English language you speak, is patterned after the British English. So largely, we are not doing badly. There might be problems around infrastructure, problems around utility, but in terms of content, in terms of pedagogy, I think we are top notch. What we need to do in the circumstances is just to improve on the environment, the learning condition, the human resource, the way we treat the human resources that are engaged in the production of this knowledge. When there are problems in these areas, people want to look for areas where they can get it better, where they can get a better quality learning culture. So it's generally, I think it comes back to what we're saying, that we've got to be holistic in looking at our own environment, trying to improve on our system, the quality that is, beyond economics. It's also, if we get economy right, of course, it will rub off on other sections, the educational sector, the political sector, and all these things also contribute. Some people also migrate, not necessarily because of some of these factors we've been highlighting. It could just be because of shock. Maybe they've witnessed some kind of terrible, some kind of unfortunate things have happened to them. Some also could go because of the ridiculous reasons like witchcraft. They think they are being bewitched back at home, so they want to go where the person that is bewitching them would not probably see them anymore.
If they read Joan d'Arc, then they would know that it's not a new phenomenon.
No,
we know the example you gave. I'm just trying to say that. We don't have much time.
Yeah, but so different things actually can lead to it. So it's not enough for us, to pass judgment on our own condition. So
at least we should be able to outline them.
Even in the Western societies where we say people are headed to, do not forget some of them also even relocate for reasons around adventure and live permanently in other parts of the world.
Sure.
I mentioned earlier the Germans in Argentina. Would you believe the Germans will go into Argentina and form a community of nationals in that country, as developed as they are? Will you believe that Australians, as developed as they are, will go into East Coast London, where they presently habitate, and form a community of people in those areas? Israel is very developed, no doubt, but of course we know the mark that the Jews are making in the Western society, particularly America.
But Africans are making that mark in Argentina that you first called, you understand? It's a rarity in Argentina. How much are the Africans doing? But that's
I said the Germans in Argentina.
You said Germans. I said, but Africans are not known to have such community there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but let's just quickly round it up with Philip Agbese. So, what quickly new ideas are you going to, impute into your motion? It's just a motion. It's not even a bill.
No, it's not a bill. First, I want to thank Nigerians for accepting that there's a problem on our hand and there's a need for us to confront that situation. Two, I've received calls from well-meaning Nigerians, even international organizations, requesting for a meeting with me for us to further discuss, engage the youth, bring them on board to discuss the issues leading to this irregular kind of migration. So thank God, even organizations like ASU, they've all acknowledged this fact. And in the next few days, I'll be meeting with Mr. President to equally discuss this issue out of Parliament.
And maybe it could form the fulcrum of a bill?
Yes, yes, a bill. And the medical practitioners have also called to say yes, they love what.
All right, everybody is really concerned.
Yes, people are concerned. So
maybe because of
and personally,
sorry, Philip, we don't have enough time. That's why I said very quickly. All right, thank you so very much, Philip Agbese is a member of the House of Representatives and the sponsor of the motion to check youth immigration in Nigeria, and of course, Professor Abiodun Adeni.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.